Welcome to the live lounge here at Open Banking Expo Canada 2026. I'm delighted to be joined by Jane Barratt, who is Chief Advocacy Officer at MX, and with her is Adam Betteridge, FinTech and Open Banking Lead at TSB. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Ellie.
You shared the stage together today, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this live lounge. So, Jane, can you give us an idea of what you discussed on stage and who else joined you?
So we were very fortunate to have Ensure from Brazil, and it's Open Finance Brazil, who have done phenomenal work in terms of truly accelerating adoption there. Obviously, Adam from the UK, and then Michelle Bayo, who's been a fearless advocate for Canadian open banking, open finance, open data for a very long time. So it was a great panel.
Yeah, a power panel, if you will. Adam, what were some of the key takeaways for you from that panel?
So I specifically kind of covered the smart data, the data use and access bill that the UK launched in June last year. What that meant to the UK, so how we're able to open up things like energy, telecoms into open banking. But then really kind of what does that mean for Canada? How can they kind of look at what lessons learned with kind of launching into the UK, launching into America and launching into Brazil, and where can they take some lessons learned?
Mhm. And Jay, from your point of view, why is this the right time to have this conversation and to bring these kind of global voices together on stage?
Well, I think there's been, don't check me on this, I think 92 jurisdictions around the world, something like
Yeah.
that, have implemented open banking in some way, shape, or form. And some have been industry led, like the US, some have been regulatory led, like the UK and Australia. Canada has been very cautious in terms of like, let's learn for the world. Let's make sure that, and it is a smaller market, so making sure competition is leading. So I think it makes sense to be bringing voices from around the world to the stage now. But it's also like the industry keeps moving and the world keeps moving forward and technology keeps advancing. And so I think for Canada, especially being hyper cognizant of what's worked in other markets, building purpose fit for Canada, but with a very firm eye on the future, and especially with the rise of AI, how can they best, ensure competition for Canadians as well as ensuring privacy and security?
And Adam, from your point of view, I mean, you must come along to these panels and also take away something or be able to reflect on what you can take back to the UK, right?
Well, yeah, it's good to reflect on what's happened in the UK. We've been live for 8 years, and it's good to kind of look back at it's done well, like retrospectively now, but then it's like, could it have been even better? Could it be supercharged? And I think that's where other jurisdictions are going to look at it and think that, well, we can launch it now. What lessons learned can we use from that? And similar from the UK, it's like, where do we start again if we need to? What other use cases are out there? What can we learn from different jurisdictions like Brazil? And how can we kind of figure out there's something really interesting there with open data, with open banking that we might be able to, there's a missing use case that we can just kind of click.
Mhm. And Jane, I know you've been coming to Open Banking Expo Canada for several years. Does the conversation feel like it's shifted this year? And if so, how?
Well, I think the appointment of the Bank of Canada as sort of the oversight body was a very good and a very timely one. I think last year the FCAC were sort of in the driver's seat. So it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day from last year because we thought we were moving forward with FCAC. Obviously, having the Bank of Canada really kick us off today was fantastic to really set the tone for, okay, we need to get to work. And if that's one theme that I can take from today, it is that it's time to build, it's time to move, it's time to collaborate. And the industry does need to collaborate regardless of like, yes, we're waiting for regulation, but it's in these rooms that the collaboration happens, that trust is built, that once there is some clarity, we don't have to go, oh, now who do I talk to? We know exactly who to talk to.
In terms of, Jane's point about collaboration there, that's been key in the UK, hasn't it?
I think that's something we do really well, partnerships between fintechs, between banks. And I've heard that spoken about a lot today is that's something they really need to think about is where does that partnerships come in between private, public and other organizations? And that is probably some of the lessons learned they can take from the UK is we are very good at where we think that don't always need to build, don't always need to go the other way. It's like, where can you find specialists who are actually doing it day in, day out and look for the right product?
So there are many kind of senior leaders in this room today. Jane, what should they be taking back to their teams and actioning, importantly?
So I think like the time for learning is done. it's time for prioritization. So where are you in your technology stack? Where are you in your partnership within the ecosystems? What are the use cases that your customers are going to need the most? And then how do you just move forward like every day? Because it is very easy to get completely paralyzed with how complex this is, as well as sort of deferring to, well, let's see what the government comes back with in terms of, obviously a standard. And I am the co-chair of the Financial Data Exchange, so I say this with both love and passion around, like, you need something to build to. And frankly, most of Canada has built to FDX already. So either call it or call an alternative. But, the longer it takes to move forward on those big things, the harder it's going to be for, leaders to go back to their organizations and say, well, this is what we got to do. But I think the readiness, if this room hasn't done readiness assessments already, I'd be amazed because we've had plenty of time.
And Adam, what would you say, should be the next steps here in Canada?
I think exactly what Jane's alluded to, but also having a roadmap, having a plan of this is what we're going to build by when. We've already spoken about in the room, read access by the end of the year, write access next year. But then once they've got that, what is next? What are they really aiming towards post that? And not just having something that sits there and stays there. It's where can they really build, develop, and actually kind of look at other markets and think, how can we go one step better?
Yeah. Well, Adam, Jane, thank you so much for joining me in the live lounge. It's been fascinating to hear about your panel earlier, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you, Ellie, for all you do and all of the Expo does. It's great that you bring us together.
Thank you.
Thank you.